Here to talk strategy for both Harris and Trump campaigns, Carrie Sheffield, conservative commentator and independent Women's Voice senior policy analyst, and Fred Hicks, Democratic strategist and president of Hicks Evaluation Group. Wonderful to have you both here. Carrie, I'd like to start with you. So this upcoming debate, as you know, this is going to be monumental for both campaigns. One of the strategies stated by the Trump campaign is that he'll be working to demonstrate how Harris is trying to move away from her record now that she's the Democratic nominee. What do you believe are the most effective arguments he'll work to make to demonstrate that?
Yeah, well, when you look at her record, she's trying to claim, for example, that she supports energy production, that she doesn't want to ban fracking, yet repeatedly she said she wants to ban fracking, which is something that really doesn't play well in the state of Pennsylvania, for example. When it comes to the economy, she's trying to claim that on day one, she'll do more to help fight against price gouging, as she calls it, for inflation. Well, cumulatively, since the Biden-Harris White House took over, we've had a 20% inflation. That has amounted to over a $2,000 pay cut since Biden-Harris took over. This is devastating to families. And she's trying to say that it's price gouging or corporate greed, which begs the question, why was Donald Trump so much better at fighting corporate greed than you were? She's also going to try to claim that she has the solution to Middle East peace. Well, she's been in the White House for almost 4 years. Why hasn't she done any of that? When it comes to immigration, she was the one who was supposed to root out the root causes of people coming massively over and overflowing the border. Why hasn't she delivered? Why did she stand by when the Remain in Mexico policy was rolled back at a very effective, highly effective policy created by the Trump administration? Why was it under her watch that Vladimir Putin was allowed to go into Ukraine and devastate the lives of millions of people? She has to take responsibility for 13 Marines who were murdered and slaughtered in Afghanistan. The incompetence, the fact that we left $80 billion of equipment under her watch. These are things that Trump should be relentless. Call her out, call her to the carpet for her weakness, because they just threw Joe Biden out of office. And so who was the force behind the throne? That's what he needs to ask her.
Well, Fred, I'll pose the same question to you, because the Harris team is also reportedly working to make the same argument that the former president is changing his stance on issues and pretending now to be a different candidate for political gains. What are some specific examples the campaign is pointing to? And do you think this will be a successful argument from the Harris camp?
Well, I think that's a great question, and good morning. I appreciate the opportunity. I think what we just heard is it was really reflective of one of the big things that the Harris campaign is going to have to do. They're going to have to push back against the untruths that Donald Trump is very comfortable spouting. We know in the last debate he told 28 mistruths. I'm being nice by using that term, but 28 different times. And current President Biden let him go with that. Vice President Harris can't do that. So, for example, when we talk about the economy, she's going to need to talk about the fact that this is the best economy for African Americans and other minorities in history, the lowest unemployment rate and highest level of income. She's going to need to talk about issues around, when she talks about the border, that we have the lowest border crossings right now that we've had in basically 4 years. She's going to need to talk about the fact that the reason why we have the inflation, which was the lowest in the Western world over the last 3 to 4 years, was because of the Trump tariffs and the Trump tax wars on China in 2020, which over 50 economists at the time said would lead to massive inflation. She's going to need to talk about things, and this is where the pivot will come in, like the impact of the Trump tax cuts, which have raised the taxes for the majority of Americans while shrinking the taxes for the 1% of Americans. She's going to need to talk about the importance of labor as we celebrate Labor Day today, and continue to drive home to her message that this is about the middle class versus everyone else, so to speak, in terms of who's going to benefit from the economy. A Trump economy benefits people who are billionaires like he wants to be, and a Harris-Biden economy has really benefited middle class Americans. When we talk about the child tax credit, when we talk about the infrastructure bill, and we talk about all the other work they put into, including their efforts to relieve student loan debt, which the Republicans, led by Donald Trump, have fought against. And again, when we come back to the border, she's going to need to talk about the reality that the Biden-Harris team has worked really hard to deal with this issue and had a bipartisan deal just this year that Donald Trump called his Republican friends in the Senate and asked them to vote against. So
Well,
she's going to have to build against the mistruths. She's going to have to course correct with the record, and then she's going to have to do her pivot to talk about her vision for the future.
I wish we could dig into all of these policies more specifically, but we hit it all with some broad brushstrokes. Carrie Sheffield, Fred Hicks, thank you both for being here this morning.
Thank you.
And now let's take